Today I'm going to be discussing the 200 versus the new, slightly dirty, slightly used 220. So the 220 battery powered saw, it's been my everyday saw as a freelance climbing arborist for the last 8 months. Before I bought it, I was doing a bit of research. I couldn't find a video to answer the question, is it worth upgrading from the 200 to the 220 battery saw? Should I stick with petrol or move to battery? That was my dilemma. I couldn't find a video out there to talk about the pros and cons of the two. And as I just said, this is a really good saw. So why change, why upgrade? So a couple of months ago, I had a hearing test and I found out that I'm going a little bit deaf in my left ear. Nothing noticeable, nothing significant, just slight degradation. And when I'm climbing around the tree, I always have my right ear down, my right ear defender down, and my left one, I lift it up so I can hear the surroundings and put it down when I'm making a cut. So with a petrol saw, it's always on tick over, or I've always got that noise. I can't say whether the tick over is enough to damage your hearing or not, but you know what it's like. You're climbing around the tree, you've got a quick cut to make. Forget to put your ear defenders down, don't think about it. You do that over a lifetime, and 13 years I've been doing this, and you're gonna see some noticeable difference. So that was one reason I thought if I go to a battery power saw, it'll be a little bit quieter. The other thing is fumes. I don't particularly want to breathe in petrol fumes, so that was another minor thing. In a wide open oak tree, not so much of a problem, but when you're in the midst of a really densely packed conifer hedge, you do notice all these fumes flying around. So that was another reason. The other reason, safety. It's easier to communicate with a battery saw. Ready? Because you haven't got the internal engine ticking away. Before I got this, I did have quite a few reservations. One of the big reservations I had about it was cost. It costs a lot of money, including the batteries. Body only, I can't remember what the price is. I think it's about 600 quid. It's a bit cheaper than buying a 201, for example. But I didn't have any batteries, so I had to spend about 500 quid on batteries to get two. So cost was a big factor for me. The other thing was a bit of a safety concern. I know that when you're on the ground, you can tell when somebody takes the chain brake off. You can hear the ring of the clutch, ding, 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 ding. And it gives the grounders a bit of warning that, you're going to start cutting. With a battery saw, there's none of that. You're either cutting or you're not. And that was a concern because when you take the chain brake off the petrol saw, it gives them a bit of warning. You know what's coming. Unless they look up, they don't know what you're doing. They don't know when you're cutting. So there is that, you're taking that sound dimension out of it, that early warning of the chain brake coming off a petrol saw. So you've got to be more vigilant of what's around you. And the other big note for me was performance. I couldn't find any videos comparing the 220 to a 200 or 201, which is what I wanted to know. How does it compare in daily use, and what's it like compared to the petrol saws out there? All I could find was videos comparing battery to battery. I wanted to know what it was like in daily use and how people found it. I couldn't find anything like that at the time I got this, so it was a bit of unknown. But the real question is, am I happy that I made the change from the 200 to the 220? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I have no problems with the 220. I find it a great saw. It is comparable to the 200 in many ways. I could just end the video there, but I feel like I need to explain why I'm saying that a little bit. Weight for weight, if you hold them like that, the 220, the battery saw, is a little bit heavier, but you've really got to stop and think about it. It's not like, oh, this is really heavy. It's not that much different. And do I notice the difference when it's on my harness? No, I don't. They're about the same. So it really is comparable in use. Cutting time and cutting speed is pretty much like for like. I was going to get out a log out and do a cutting test, but to be honest, when I've done those in the past, it just proves that one chain is sharper than the other. You're talking seconds, if that, difference, and a lot of that can be down to sharpening. So I'm not going to do a test like for like cut through log. I don't think it's a useful comparison for what I do climbing the trees. But you have got to be mindful that it is 29 minutes cutting time. So if you're cutting down bigger timber or you're doing really dense like conifers, things like that, conifer hedges, you will get through the battery quite a lot quicker. The thing I like is when you've got like big reductions. I used to just have my petrol saw hanging off my harness ticking away. Obviously that's using up fuel and making a noise. Whereas the battery saw, it's just sitting there on your harness, just being quiet, weighing you down, but it's being quiet. So you haven't got the background noise, and of course it's not using up the battery when you're not using it. So it's really good on reductions of big pollards, even when you're taking down quite big timber. The real test job that I had this on just after I had it was a big sycamore. We were pollarding it basically down to big timber, and the 2 batteries lasted me the whole day. The day before I'd done a conifer, a really dense conifer, and a cherry that I logged down, and just because it was so much denser and so much more trigger time, it absolutely rinsed the battery. But on bigger trees where you've got a bit of time between the cuts, it seems to last a lot longer. In terms of cutting speed, cutting through smaller branches up to 10 inches say, you don't notice the difference. I think it is slower on anything that's over the bar length, but you know, I've got a 12-inch bar on there and a 14-inch bar on there, so I wouldn't go any bigger than that. And I think if you are cutting timber that's longer than 14 inches, you're better off getting a bigger saw, a petrol saw. But as I'm moving around the tree and I'm doing reductions and takedowns, it's a good saw. It's a good solid saw, and it is comparable in every single way to the 200. My reservations about battery life there were nothing to worry about. Depending on what you're doing, of course, if you're doing a lot of really big timber, you are gonna rinse through the batteries quite quickly. It's very rare I'll get through more than 2 batteries in a day. So the 2 batteries I've got have otherwise lasted me. I do take a charge with me, so I can charge it up in the customer's house when they're there. And again, it depends on what you're actually cutting, whether it's densely packed conifer versus, you know, an open spread oak tree reduction. But generally, I find that 1 battery will last for 2 tanks on the 200. There are occasions though when you're cutting through really dense stuff that it's probably about 1 battery to 1 tank. But again, if you're in jobs where you're moving around the canopy quite a lot, you're not wasting fuel by having a petrol saw just ticking away. I feel like I should say more, but I feel like I said enough. So I'm going to end it there. But for me, using this saw every day in and out for the last 8 months, it's been comparable to that. And we all know that the 200 is the best saw you can get as an arborist. So I would say, if you're looking at upgrading and your 200 is your everyday workhorse at the moment, the 220 is a good alternative. Hopefully that was useful. I feel like I've rambled a little bit, so if I've gone off track, sorry. So if there's something I haven't covered that you'd like to ask, then drop a comment below, I'll get back to you. And hopefully this video has been useful.